Hi there, Marty Van Diest here with Valley Market Real Estate, and we're right here in my office, a little bit after hours, nobody else here. But I wanted to do a video this week on private land use regulations in the Mat-Su Borough. Last week I did one on the borough's restrictions, land use regulations, but there are probably more private restrictions than there are borough restrictions. And they're all over the place. They consist of, we always think of covenants, conditions, and restrictions, CC&Rs. That's what realtors call them. You have any CC&Rs on that? And yeah, there usually are. Most subdivisions in the valley and most lots in the valley are in a subdivision. That just means it's a smaller piece of a larger piece. Somebody bought a 10-acre parcel or a 40-acre parcel and split it up into smaller lots. They subdivided it. That doesn't mean it's going to have a homeowners association, and it doesn't even mean it's going to have CC&Rs. It doesn't mean it will, but usually it does. So those are one of the types of restrictions. They're the main one, and you need to know what they are. And every single subdivision is going to have different ones. They're not the same. Some are very restrictive. Some are not very restrictive at all. Some you'll find out have been put on after the fact. What I mean by that is there's only a few of these that I know about that the developer recorded the subdivision and then he sold all the lots, and then later somebody came in and said, hey, we should have restrictions on these lots. Well, unless all the people in that subdivision agree to have restrictions, those restrictions don't apply. You can't record restrictions after the fact. There's a few subdivisions like that. If you want to call me up, I can name them. I only know it for you. But most subdivisions do have restrictions, and you need to find them. Where do you find them? Well, you know, when we do a title search, the title company finds them for us. And where do they find them? They usually find them in the State Department of Natural Resources Recorder's Office. They're recorded documents. They have to be recorded documents. So restrictions are one type. And I'm going to go over a few of those. They can run the gamut. There can be deed restrictions. So let's say you decide you want to sell your lot, and maybe it doesn't have any restrictions on it, and you don't want anybody to do something. You don't want anybody to ever raise pigs on your lot. It just would really bother you. So you can put that restriction on that lot. You can sell the lot. You can add that restriction to the deed, and it's stuck there. Nobody will ever be able to raise pigs on there. I hate deed restrictions. They're really hard to get rid of. Unless you get back to the original person that put them on there. And you know, that guy died 10 years ago. It's stuck. So deed restrictions are there, though. You need to check them out. There are also restrictions that can be on the plat. There may not be any CC&Rs on the subdivision, but when that subdivision was first split up, maybe the developer put a few restrictions right on the plat. You have to read the plat notes. Usually there are plat notes. Have you looked at the plat? I'm not talking about just the drawing of the lot, the actual plat of the subdivision. That's what you need to see. I'm going to go over a few of those things and show them to you in a minute. But there can be easements. Those are restrictions. You can have easements on your lot. You never know what kind of an easement it could be. It might be somebody may have the right to put a septic system on your lot. That's a real thing. Somebody may have the right to keep you from ever building any higher than a certain amount because they have a view easement over your lot. Maybe you can't even grow any trees that are higher than 20 feet or something. They have a view easement. That's possible. They may have an easement to put utilities over your lot, electricity or something. Those are restrictions on your lot. So I can come up with even more. So let's talk about covenants. Where do you find covenants? You're going to find them recorded. If you are working with a title company, they're going to find them for you, and you need to look through what they find, and then you need to understand them. Who can enforce those? If you have a homeowners association, and you won't always have a homeowners association, I would say less than half, maybe, I'm guessing there, of the subdivisions in the valley do have homeowners associations. But if you have a homeowners association, they can enforce them. But they're not the only ones that can enforce them. Your neighbors can enforce them. Even your mortgage company can enforce it. And in fact, your neighbor's mortgage company would have standing to enforce them if they felt they needed to. And I can give you a scenario where that would be possible. Let's say your neighbor has a loan on his lot from a mortgage company, and you decide you're going to, well, let's go back to pigs. Maybe you live upwind of him and you decide you want to raise pigs, even though the subdivision covenants say you can't raise pigs, but you decide you want to. And nobody else in the subdivision has a problem with it. But your mortgage company might, because you may decrease the value of the property that they have a loan on. So they have an interest in keeping that value high. They can enforce them. And how are they enforced? How do they do it? Do they come and hold you up with a gun? No. They can enforce them in court. They have to take you to court. So it's a civil action. It's private. Subdivision covenants are private restrictions, and they are enforced privately. So you have to go to court. You have to file a lawsuit in court against your neighbor and say, hey, you are not obeying the covenants and you have to. And, it's possible you might not win. That's why lots of times people don't bother. They just try to keep their neighbors happy. I've told people all the time, no matter what the covenants say, if you keep your neighbors happy, you don't have to worry about them. If you make your neighbors unhappy, they're going to start leafing through the covenants, I guarantee. I often have people say, well, I'll just go down to the borough and see what the covenants are. Let me tell you something. The borough doesn't know what the covenants are, and the borough doesn't care what the covenants are, and the borough is not going to enforce the covenants. These are private restrictions, and so don't bother the borough. They don't have them. You can hire a title company to look them up, or you can learn to look them up yourself. I'll do a little bit here on the screen maybe and show you how you can look them up. You just need to get on the DNR site. But I don't even trust myself to find all the covenants. If I'm really getting serious about a property and I'm helping a client try to find the restrictions on a property, I'm going to enroll the title company in my search because they can help me a lot better. A lot of times you'll have covenants that were put on originally, and then maybe a few years later those covenants were amended. They'll either add to or take away something from the original covenants. And I just looked at one here that was modified at least 10 times after it was originally put on the property. So these are things you need to find out, and all those are going to be recorded if they're going to count at all. Now, there's all kinds of other issues that can happen, but the covenants need to be recorded before you buy the lot. Anything that's recorded after you buy the lot is not going to be enforceable. What are some things that are going to be in covenants? Well, often and usually they're going to tell you how many houses you can have on the lot. It's going to say this is a single family residential subdivision, and you can only have one house, one single family house on a lot. Or sometimes the newer covenants will say you can have one single family house and an accessory dwelling unit. They'll also tell you what the minimum size is going to be. They may say you can't have a house more than or less than 1,500 square feet or 1,200 square feet or 1,000 square feet. Some of the older covenants will say you can't have a house that's worth less than $80,000. Way back in the day, $80,000 was a big house, and it doesn't really matter anymore. And some of them are going to say you can't have more than a two-story house. Some of them are going to say you have to finish your house within a certain time frame. As soon as you break ground, you might have 6 months or 12 months to be finished. Usually finished only on the outside is what counts. That's all your neighbors care about. You can leave it unfinished inside. It's going to say whether you can have livestock. Everybody wants to have chickens now, and the covenants are going to have something to say about chickens. There are some subdivisions here in the valley where it says you cannot have any poultry, no poultry. But you know what? Dozens of people in that subdivision might have poultry. Nobody's enforcing it. So covenants are only as good as they're enforced. Some of the covenants may say you can't have more than one derelict car, but your neighbor's got 12. Well, if you don't care, he doesn't care. It's privately enforced. Some covenants or some subdivisions are going to have homeowners associations, and sometimes if they do, then you have to belong to that homeowners association. Now, the homeowners association can even set more rules. They can raise the cost of your homeowners association dues. They can decide that they're going to put streetlights in certain areas, and so they're going to assess everybody a certain amount to put the streetlights in, or maybe even pave it. I don't know if I've heard any homeowners associations pave their subdivisions, but they can do a lot of things that you wouldn't normally expect. But like I said, more than half the subdivisions in the valley do not have a homeowners association. Some of the covenants are going to have something about exterior appearance. Now, those are very few here in the Mat-Su Valley, but there are some. They're going to say you have to keep your lawn mowed. They're going to say you have to keep the house painted, or maybe even painted a certain type of color, earth tones. I don't know any subdivision that says all the houses have to be purple, but you could do that if you made your own subdivision. I'm making this video just to make sure that you know, just because we're in the Mat-Su Borough and the Mat-Su Borough doesn't say whether you can or can't do something, that doesn't mean you don't have restrictions on your lot. You probably do. There are some properties in the valley that we call unrestricted. They still have borough restrictions, but otherwise they don't have any restrictions. And it used to be that those lots were not very valuable back in the day, I can remember, but now they are much more valuable than a normal lot, because you can do whatever you want on that lot. And you might have some good ideas that you would like to do. I just sold a lot out in the Butte, 3-acre lot, and the main reason it sold for so much, which it sold for a good price, was because it was unrestricted. And the owner had a lot of different ideas he wanted to do with that lot. So here are 5 things you should pay attention to before you buy a property in the valley, whether it's a lot or a house with a lot. Look at the plat. You need to see the plat. Does the plat have any notes on it? Look at the easements that are on the plat. There are going to be easements on a plat, for sure. You need to know what they are. You need to know the covenants, the CC&Rs. What do they say? Many times a borough setback will be 10 feet from the side lot line, but a subdivision may say, oh no, you gotta be 20 feet or even 50 feet. Check out the title report. There'll be a lot of things in that title report that you may not have thought about, including deed restrictions. Those are the hardest ones to find. You might find a deed restriction, and that's always scary to me. Great, what does a deed restriction have to say? Check out if there's a homeowners association, what are the dues? And you know, if there is a homeowners association, I recommend going to those meetings, because those guys can control your life. You better be there. And finally, look at what the borough has to say. Does the borough have any special restrictions on your lots? I'm going to talk about SPUDs later. Those are special land use districts. So we say we don't have covenant, or we don't have zoning in the borough, but we do have special land use districts, and those are basically the same thing. And we'll talk about them. There's quite a few different ones in the valley, and they all have different rules. Well, I'm wanting to get this out, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, even though I really should talk about more things. Next week, we'll definitely talk about SPUDs and maybe a few other different types of land use restrictions, things you need to think about. I just was hit today and about wetlands. We need to talk about wetlands too. Let's talk about wetlands next week as well.